Shalom Aleichem. As always, it's a pleasure. We entered the 9 days of reflection, days of introspection, days of sensitivity, not only towards ourselves, but sensitivity towards our beloved ones, towards our community, towards the Shekhinah, the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is in pain, that is suffering during these days. And it is important, very important, to be sensitive to these days and to be serious about it. As we know what Chachamim say, כל מי שלא נברא בית מקדש בימיו כאילו החריב בית המקדש בימיו. Whoever lives in a generation that the Beit HaMikdash was not built, it's as if it was destroyed during that generation. We also know, כל המתאבל על ירושלים זוכה ורואה בשמחתה. Whoever carries the burden and mourns the loss of the temple, the loss of the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, has the merit to rejoice during the time of its reconstruction. So indeed, it are days that require a lot of introspection, a pause in our routine in order to awake that sensitivity and awareness that is required in order to tap into that personal pain that we carry and we share with Hashem. So, just to go back to what we said last shiur, we spoke about the reason why a person makes the mistake to turn a trait that Hashem gives everyone, which is a self-confidence, right? The strength of the leopard, and due to his lack of understanding and unhealthy, toxic relationship with materialism, turn that beautiful trait into what we call arrogance, the arrogance of the dog, the breaking of all the limitations, boundaries, values, respect, hierarchy that make our society an organized society, makes our community an organized community. Within the community, we have Am Yisrael, then we have the Leviim, then we have the Kohanim, and then we have the Kohen Gadol, we have the world, and we have Eretz Yisrael, and we have Yerushalayim, and we have Har HaBayit, and we have the Beit HaMikdash, and inside the Beit HaMikdash we have Ezrat Kohanim and the Kodesh HaKodashim. There is a structure to life. And when a person has an unhealthy relationship and interaction with materialism, he indirectly and probably in a subconscious way destroys and all these values, all these boundaries, all this structure, just so that he can benefit his desires and appease his need of consumption, of ownership and control. So what I would like to address today is how come a person can make such a mistake? Why can a person fall for something that's so meaningless? Materialism is good, it's a tool, we address it. It's the tool versus the curse, right? Do you identify yourself? Do you live through the materialism, or do you use it to elevate yourself and grow to become a better person? Why would the person make such a mistake and actually fall to believe that materialistic things are part, or could be part, of his identity. Because if we understand that, then we solve the problem of materialism. If we solve the problem of materialism, then we solve the problem of arrogance. We solve the problem of arrogance. We solve the problem of humility, and we're in the track of the reconstruction of the Beit HaMikdash. And as we mentioned in the previous shiurim, the enhancement and realization of all the blessings that live within us at all times. So, in order to understand that, there is a Gemara. The Gemara tells us, or the rabbis tell us that En Adam Chote, or Vera Vera, Ela Im Ken Yechdas Bo Ruach Shtut. A person only, in quote, sins when the spirit of foolishness penetrates him. It's only once a person has in him an awakening of foolishness that a person can sin. Meaning that the person has a structure, the person naturally is built with some guidelines, guidance, direction, but there is a disturbance, there is a contamination, a moment of weakness, a moment of distraction, and the person goes out of his way, and the person will sin. And the Gemara tells us that we learn this from the Sota. The Sota, we know, is the lady that is accused by her husband to maybe have cheated on him, and then the lady used to go to the Beit HaMikdash, and the Kohen used to take holy water, and Afar used to take dust, the earth from the Mishkan, from the Beit HaMikdash, and mix it, and give it to the lady to drink, put the name of Hashem in it, and if the lady did not sin and did not cheat on her husband, then she was blessed with all the blessings of the Torah, and had beautiful babies, smart babies, as beautiful and as powerful and as prestigious as Avraham Avinu. And what I would like to emphasize on in this Gemara are two things. First of all, the root of all sins is what, according to our rabbis, is an outside influence that comes and contaminates the clarity of a person. Which means that by default, we have in us structure. We have in us a direction. But we allow ourselves to be exposed to distractions, to not so good things, and these things eventually awaken us a feeling of foolishness, which leads to the sin and to the mistake, and then we are in a snowball effect. What's interesting is the reasoning behind it. And this is what the Gemara learned from the Sota. Why did the Chachamim have to go and learn from the Sota the root, right? The root of all sin. There's many averot, there's many sins in the Torah. Why specifically the Sota? Our rabbis teach us it's because of the process of the Kohen Gadol. The fact that the Kohen Gadol uses earth from the Beit HaMikdash. And our rabbis explain. Man, by nature, is made of earth. The Torah tells us that Hashem took a little bit of the earth from all four corners of the world, mixed it together, and with that earth made man. And where was man created? The Rambam in the Bet HaBechira tells us that Adam HaRishon was created exactly where the Kodesh HaKodashim is. This is where God took the earth and formed the body and blew into the nose of Adam HaRishon and gave him life. Which means that the structure and the element of man and his ability to connect to nature is through the earth that God took in order to make Adam HaRishon. And our rabbis teach us that for this specific reason, a person has now a tendency to be attached, to be motivated, or to be incentivized to connect to earthly things. Earthly things, materialism, things that are from this world. Food, intimacy, all types of different pleasures. For that specific reason, because the nature of man comes from the earth, comes from the afar. However, when a person wants to know if he is on the right path, he's doing the right things, he's on the shita, right? He's on the proper rails. Our rabbis tell us, well, it's only when the person connects to the kedusha, to the holiness that was in the Bet HaMikdash, right? In the Kodesh HaKodashim, in that earth. So we have a new layer. We have a new layer to our essence. We have this earthy, natural, materialistic side of our essence, which by default allows us to connect and to be dependent on materialistic things. However, HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not just take earth from anywhere and didn't mold Adam HaRishon on the earth anywhere. He did it in the Kodesh HaKodashim to tell us that that earth has to always be connected to morality, to spirituality, to a higher purpose, to service men as a vector of growth and a tool. So when, God forbid, a lady is accused by her husband, our Torah tells us something fantastic. The Torah tells us, well, if that lady is accused of sin, the chet, our Chachamim say, is referred to tiste, stia. Stia is a distortion, like a derivation from the path. It's someone that goes out of its way, changes the course of his path, changes the course of its structure. So when there is such an accusation, what the Kohanim used to do is give that lady of that earth in order to see how the earth would react with the earth of the lady and see what was the difference between the original structure of the earth that is connected to the holiness of the Bet HaMikdash versus the earth, which is the element of the physicality of the lady and every human, specifically that lady for that specific reason, and her action. So here we learn something spectacular, something beautiful. If someone comes and tells us, well, you know, materialism, physicality, mundanity, it's all nonsense. It's something that doesn't talk to me at all. It's something that doesn't have any influence on anyone, or at least not on that person. It's not true. This is a person you should not listen to and you should not believe. The Torah comes and tells us every individual, every person has a need, has a tendency to make to physicality and materialism. That's granted, that's given. And this is why we need to eat. This is why we need a wife, we need a husband, we need to reproduce, we need to grow, we need to get dressed, we need a house, we need rain, we need fruits, we need to labor. For that specific reason, we are connected and binded and dependent on the earth, on materialism. Because of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu made us with this afar. However, our Chachamim are telling us the following. If you leave that earth on its own, if you leave the earth and you detach it from the purpose of this Kedusha, the purpose of its use to morality, to unity, the Beit HaMikdash represents the harmony of Am Yisrael, the connection between the spirituality and physicality, the blessing on the entire world came from the Beit HaMikdash. All these berachot, all these blessings are connected directly with the earth. And if you detach the earth from that purpose, you are already hote. You are already inside the dynamic of the scene. Because now something is missing in the equation. Ani ehatenna, when Yaakov tells Lavan, Ani ehatenna, it means I'm expected to do something, but something at the end is missing. The concept of chet is the shoresh, the root of the word chet, which means sin, also means chaser, something that's missing, there's a void. If we disconnect our purpose with our needs and desires, we create a void in our essence. That void is in itself a sin. And the reason the Maharal teaches us of all confusion, of all sins. This is the Gemara in Masechet Sotah. This is when a person now is left to total dependence of materialism. At that point, the person sees the afar as his essence, sees the earth as his person, as his reality. So, obviously, all he can connect with is things that are earthy, things that are materialistic. And in order to survive, in order to exist, he needs to make sure that he has more of that earth. So a person that's materialistic, a person that identifies himself through materialism, thinks that this is what makes the person, is a person that left the purpose of growth, the purpose of truth from his essence. He forgot, he detached himself from a structure, from a direction, from the original creation of man that was earth and spirituality together. So if we want to know where we stand spiritually, a good exercise is to try and see how dependent we are from materialism. How much do I need this to exist? And this will tell us if we are connected to our spirituality, if we are having that original mix from Hashem, which is earth and the kedusha of the Kodesh HaKodashim or not. And this brings us to understand something also beautiful. The Maharal teaches us that when a person does something good, Gemilut Chasadim, does an act of kindness, the type of act of kindness we discussed in last year, not the one that's basic, the one that takes a person out of his comfort zone. Says the Maharal, when the person does such an action, he elevates himself from the mundanity of the world, from a world of ends, of things that end, that finish, that have no perpetual continuation. And now that person enters into a world of kiyum, into a world of perpetuality. Now his actions no longer have an end. The actions of the person start, and that ruach, that spirit, that energy just keeps on going and going and going forever. A kind act that from a person that goes out of his comfort zone. And says the Moyal, when a person is imprisoned in his own physicality, in his own need of materialism, and doesn't have the ability to connect, to elevate to a dynamic of actions that are perpetual, that are repetitive, that are nitzchi forever, the person enters a world of what is called the world of tzimtzum, the world of distress, of stress, of narrowness, a world where everything has to start but it ends, and because it ends, we have to start again. Tzimtzum, stress, tense. This is what a materialistic person is exposed to. Somebody that identifies himself and lives through materialism because he lost along the way the importance of the purpose to the physicality. This person is always starting, ending, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's never enough. It's never satisfying. It's never uplifting. The person is never really happy. The person never feels at ease. It's like a car that's stalling every few meters. Drive, stop, drive, stop. This is the life of a person that has no purpose, that has no structure. The reason why we have this earth is in order to allow the spirituality to elevate. We have to give a purpose to our body, a purpose to our life, a purpose to our actions. If we have the purpose, if we have structure, at such a basic level, just why am I doing what I'm doing? Is there a higher purpose to what I'm thinking? Is there a higher purpose to what I'm saying? Is there a higher purpose to what I want to accomplish? The answer is yes. Baruch haba, mazal tov, bracha ve'atzlacha, beautiful. But if it's only to satisfy my needs, my selfishness, my ego, my desire of consuming, then oy vavoy lanu. Then we enter in that disturbing dynamic. And the Moyal explains that the difference between there is a perpetual action versus a narrow, limited in time and in energy action, it's exactly the difference there is between emet and sheker. A person that lives a true life, a life that's dedicated to the emet, such a person, every time he makes an action, whether he's at the same spot or not, whether he's on this world or not, his action stays forever. A person can leave his actions behind him for thousands of years. This is the power of emet. This is the power of harmony between physicality and its purpose. When you take a train and you put it on its rails, the train goes. But if you take it out of its rails, it could be the bullet train, the fastest train. It's not going to go anywhere. We need to be on the rails. And the beauty is that naturally, by default, we are on the rails. It's only if we allow ourselves to be exposed to foolishness and we allow emotions of foolishness to contaminate our thoughts, contaminate our heart, contaminate our actions, that the person goes out of his rails, breaks his structure, becomes shote. Stia, to diverge, comes from the word shote, from the word shtut, ruach shtut, foolishness. A fool is someone that doesn't follow the path. It's like the hadas. A hadas that we use on Sukkot, during the Chag HaSukkot, with the lulav. The Gemara tells us, the Mishnah tells us that the hadas shote, hadas that have 3 leaves, but they're not aligned, they're not structured, they're messed up. Not good, it's not good. So this is the chet. A shote is the chet, is the someone that is not structured, someone that is not allowing his natural essence, natural purpose, his natural afar, his natural earth that's in him, be elevated by his natural higher purpose. The person goes on the wrong direction, divergence. And that divergence, one letter, it's enough to destroy the entire perpetuity of the actions of a person. And the Moyal tells us, if you take the word emet, you diverge it from one letter, says the Moyal. You take only, emet means the truth, right? Being dedicated to the truth. Says the Moyal, you take off one letter, the aleph, from emet, you know what is left? Met. Met means dead. A person that changes direction just a little bit is in the path of death. What does it mean, death? Not chas v'shalom, the real death, but in a dynamic way, it's dead. Something that's dead is something that has an end, something that doesn't continue. Baruch Hashem, today we benefit from the actions of Moshe Rabbeinu. We act from the actions of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, all those Gedolei Olam, all those great rabbis. Until today, great people, until today we benefit from their energy, from their actions, from their wisdom. Because everything they did had a purpose. Rabotai, it is extremely, extremely important to go down to that resolution in our actions and ask ourselves with true and pure honesty, what is the purpose of what I'm doing? Is there a higher purpose? Am I doing something good with the action I'm about to do? Am I benefiting with what I'm about to say? Are those thoughts constructive, or are they twisted and it can lead me to make mistakes? Let's introspect. Let's question. Now is the time to rebuild, not to let ourselves go in the wrong direction, in the direction of mitah, in the direction of death, in the direction of distress, of tense, of limitations. It is time we go back to the roots. It is time we recognize that if we allow the original purpose of our creation take its course, we will be a bullet train on the rails, going full speed in it to its direction and to reach its purpose. Be'ezrat Hashem, with that effort, we can solve so much. We solve the problem of materialism. We solve the problem of arrogance, like we said. We solve the problem of humility, of lack of humility. We empower humility. We empower kindness. We empower all the berachot, all those blessings. There's an abundance of blessing that resides within us. All this starts blossoming and flourishing. So let's not fight our true purpose on this creation, our true purpose on earth, what Hashem is expecting from us. As like we said, this is how we bring out the Moshe Rabbeinu that's in us. And look at this, how beautiful. Who teaches us that an action of kindness, of true kindness, stays forever? Bitya that saves Moshe Rabbeinu. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu had many names. And our rabbis tell us, but Hashem decided to use only Moshe to respect the action of Bitya when she went and saved Moshe from the Nile. She could have just turned an eye. She could have just asked for that baby to be killed. But no, she went, she saved that baby. Hashem himself gives her the credit. From that time until today, we are all called Moshe. We all have this Moshe that's in us, like the Arizal say. One action of kindness, of true kindness, what it did. So we need to choose it. If we want the life of death or the life of eternity. It's all in our hands to decide and choose. We choose life. We choose eternity. We choose power. We choose growth. Be'ezrat Hashem. So I want to wish you all Shabbat Shalom Mevorach. May we be zocheh benechamat Zion. B'mehera b'yameinu. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgive us and rebuild the Bet HaMikdash with mercy and not distress and not pain, with kindness and love. And may we take these days, these real days of potential growth seriously, so that Hashem can be proud of us and say, it's enough. I am so proud of you. I want to be close to you. And now is the time to come and reveal myself. Once again, Shabbat Shalom. And I wish you all a meaningful fast of Tisha B'Av and a meaningful Shavua Shehalbo. Shabbat Shalom U'Mevorach. I love you all tremendously.